So the idea for this video comes in response to a question from Winston McMahon, who in the last video when I was playing this improvised piano solo over Old Folks, he asked that when you broke out into the non-rubato solo through to the end is what he's trying to learn more about. So what we're going to talk about is the transition point between rubato and non-rubato, in this case getting into a swing feel, and also some of the improvisation techniques that you use to keep that feel going. And I'm going to play you a little bit of the last video where I did that transition point, and then we're going to dive in and talk about it. Let's get started. Okay, so let me play you a little bit of the last video, which I'm doing piano improvisation over Old Folks. And I'll play the transition between rubato and non-rubato, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, so I hope you heard a little bit of that transition period. So I'm playing in a non-time feel and then I'm getting into time, in this case, swing. So I'm heading for this chord, which is the first chord of Old Folks. It's a D half diminished seventh chord. And I like to play it like this because the melody note is a G. So essentially it's a C major chord over like a B flat 7, which is like the tritone. So the D and the A flat. It's a really nice sounding chord. So like if you're playing a B flat 7 sharp 11 chord, it's like this. So you can substitute that tritone for the D half diminished 7th chord because it's part of the D half diminished 7th, which is, this is the flat 5. Now, if I'm heading to that chord, I'm thinking about, okay, this is where time starts here, right? We're starting our time here, and we've got about a bar, maybe 2 bars. In this case, let's do a bar where I'm leading to that. So I'm basically getting to the end of the tune. So I'm ending somewhere down the tune on an E flat major 7th chord or something like that. And then what I need to do is I need to bring the band in without doing 1, 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4, which kind of like gets in the way, I find. So what you need to do is you need to set up that first bar of the tune, or that first chord. So there's a few ways to get to that chord. One of the ways is like a blues scale, which is this. So if we're in the key of E flat, C minor 7th is the relative minor, and you can play a blues scale over C minor. So what you might do is, when you finish the tune, which is really nice. So it starts on this note here, right? Another thing you could do is take the whole bar and do eighth notes. So something like maybe, so a G minor bebop scale. So there's obviously a number of ways to do that. I like to go from down below the first starting note, which is G. Start from down here instead of coming down to it, because it sounds a little weird if you go. It's okay, I just feel you're kind of heading up to it. Okay, so once we're there, this whole swing feel is kept going by this feel in your head. You're basically continuing to do an eighth note before the beat, right? Eighth note here continues to the next bar and just keep repeating that. So if I'm playing a left-hand bass line, the feel is. So that's really important because that keeps that feel going internally. Now it's really not that easy to do it as a solo piano player. So you just over time you get that swing feel, and it's one of the things that really prevents good musicians becoming great musicians is that whole feeling of that backbeat where you're heading into the next beat of the bar. So you can play it without a bass player. And so if you can keep that feel going internally, it's a lot easier to solo. And then, well, let's just play a little bit of it and I'll show you what I'm doing with the left hand. So the idea there is to play that sort of halftime feel that bass players sometimes play, which is. It's kind of like you're not playing walking bass. You're playing only like a half note and just putting in little filler notes. So the left hand it's kind of like a combination of bass walking and stride, where you're plunking down a bass note. So it's going back and forth between chords and bass notes, which is kind of, that really helps you with the feel. So you can see I'm transitioning the bass line from playing just the root to actually playing chords. And so then if you can keep that going with the left hand, then the idea is to start playing lines with the right hand. So. Get the idea? So it's kind of like your brain starts to shift and you forget a lot about what the left hand is doing and you're concentrating more on the right. And you're playing less and less of bass because you're now soloing so you can leave some space. So I hope that helps. I mean, obviously we don't have a lot of time to talk about this. I'll do it in another video and give you some more ideas. But I think that sort of halftime feel, keep the swing moving, push the beat, all of that is combined to make a great solo. Because obviously you don't want to do the same things all the time. So what I hear a lot of piano players do is just sort of comp with the left hand when they're playing solo piano. And that's okay. You're not really hearing that sort of feel from the bass note plunk down and then the chords as well. Okay, so I hope that helps a lot. The tune is called Old Folks. You might want to check it out in the real book, or one of the real books anyway. If you have any other questions about what I'm doing, you want to drill down even more, write them in the comments below, just like Winston did, and I'll see if I can answer your question. Take care.